My dad left when I was 15. He is a horrible man. He treated my mother appallingly, emotionally, physically and financially. She was never allowed to work, even though we never gave her enough money to buy food or clothes for us. She did what she could, and we often went to my grandparents' house for dinner. Luckily, we got fed at school too. He abused us too, not physically though. He called us names, didn't let us play with our friends, and took our birthday and Christmas money off us. Not a nice man. I still remember the day that he left vividly. He and Mum had an argument, which wasn't out of the norm, but this time, my mum had had enough. She told him to leave, like shouted. I've never seen her like that. He left alright, and took everything, and I mean everything with him. The sofas, the TV. He basically cleared out the living room and kitchen, leaving the cooker as it was built in. He wrecked my mum's bed so she wouldn't have anywhere to sleep, and to top it off, he scratched the car all over, stabbing her tyres so she couldn't go anywhere. Yes, the police were called, but we had no proof. This was before having a camera in your pocket. Luckily, we lived about a 20-minute walk away from my grandparents, so we stayed there for a few nights. Our relatives and my mum's friends rallied around and donated whatever they could: toasters, shelving, old chairs, groceries, etc. My mum was able to get some money from the government until she could figure out what to do. Eventually she found a job and worked her way up to management position at the local council. After he left, he constantly harassed us. Phone calls, nasty letters, stalking our schools, and following us, shouting abuse. It got so bad that we had to get a restraining order against him. He wasn't allowed anywhere near Mum, myself, or my two younger sisters, 11 and 13. We didn't hear anything from him after that, and lived our lives as best we could. We only really mentioned him when we saw my kids play with my father-in-law, and said it was a shame that our dad was such a dick. Fast forward 20 years, he got in touch with my youngest sister Mary, who's now 31, and managed to worm his way into meeting her. She didn't tell us at first, as she knew how we would all feel. I was flabbergasted. She actually met him, sat down with him and told him all about her life over a coffee, forgetting what he had done to us when we were children. She told him all about how she was saving for a house, how I was married with 3 children. She even had the nerve to tell him their names. How Mum had moved on, was doing well, but never remarried. How Dora, now 33, the middle child, had finally started her own business and it was starting to pick up. I was stunned, even more so when Dora also started to talk to him, and then Mum. That was the biggest shock. After everything that man had put her through, she decided to open the lines of communication again. Don't get me wrong, I had wondered over the years how life would have been if he was still around, but I know he isn't a good person. After having children myself, I can't imagine ever leaving them the way he did us. He left us with nothing. They all started meeting up for lunch playing Happy Families. I wanted no part of it and asked them not to discuss me with him. After about 6 months of them all rebuilding their relationship, cracks started to show, but they couldn't seem to see it. He would apparently complain about his heart and say he needed medication but couldn't afford the prescriptions. So he would meet them and not show up by giving them lame excuses. He even commented on Dora's weight, so she went on a diet as he was worried about her health. She's always been the slimmest of us and very active, so her weight or health has never been an issue. After all these years, whilst we have worked hard to get to where we are, he hadn't. He mostly lived on government handouts, did odd jobs for cash in hand, or jumped from dead-end job to dead-end job. He apparently had recently started a job that meant he no longer qualified for free medicine, so they helped him out often. It sounded fishy to me, but I got knocked back whenever I raised concerns. They were handing over money like he gave a damn all these years. I should state that not once did he help with child support. My mum was so scared of contact, even through the court, that she didn't ask for anything. But now, here he was, taking money from my family. If he couldn't pay his mortgage or needed money for petrol, he knew exactly where to turn. They kept asking when I was going to join them for lunch, but I told them I didn't want to see him. Then they said I was holding a grudge and should let it go because he's a changed man and wants to make amends. I wasn't interested. I saw him for who he really was, and I wasn't willing to let me or my children suffer at the hands of him. I already have, through no choice of my own, and now that I have that choice, I put them first. I once asked Dora and Mary how much money they had given him, but they said it didn't matter because he was going to pay them back. He always paid back just enough to make them think he would keep his word. They'd have shrugged off at any questions and concerns I had. This had been going on for about 16 months until one day they finally saw what I'd been telling them all along. He told them that his sister had died overseas. She lives in Canada, and he needed to get there immediately to bring her back. He begged them for help and said that he would have to stay there for a few months to sort everything out. He was heartbroken. He wasn't allowed to remortgage his house because of his age, but he said he would put it up for sale, downgrade, and return the money as soon as he got back. All three of them emptied their savings accounts. It was madness. All in all, they gave him about 50k. I urged him to at least look into how much it would all really cost, but again, I was told that I was a grudge holder and needed to forgive him, especially in an emergency such as this. He flew out 3 weeks ago and I haven't heard from him since. His house was actually rented and now has new tenants living in it, and they've been left with nothing again. The landlord has no forwarding address, and it turns out his sister had already died 4 years ago. What scares me is about 5 months into their reconnection, I almost gave in, but my husband asked me to retell the story of him leaving, and it really reminded me of the way he treated us. It was enough to stop me. They are all devastated, but I just can't say I told you so, even though I did try to warn them. Mary was saving for a house deposit. Dora had her savings as backup for when she left her job to start a business, and the money my mum gave him was for a year-long happy retirement trip she was planning with a friend, travelling around the world, something that she's always wanted to do. There's just no way I can support them financially, but I will always be there for them. It hurts that they were sucked in so easily by the man who left us with nothing all those years ago and didn't listen to me, who has been here. You know, it's hard when you try and give advice and it falls on deaf ears. Obviously, after 20 years, a lot of healing and forgiveness happened with your mum and sisters. I'm sure you healed too, but didn't forget that feeling of someone completely ruining your life. You did well to keep warning them in the hope that they would hear you. It sounds like they wanted him to be in their lives so badly that even when he started to show his true colours again, they turned a blind eye. I'm not sure if you've got any legal standing on this, but would recommend contacting the police, as what he did was technically fraud. As you said, all you can do now is be there for them and be a listening ear, but make sure to take care of you too. What are your thoughts? Do you have any advice for this OP? Let me know below.